We are continuing to celebrate the power of partnerships here the first week of October. It's Healthcare Supply Chain Week, and we kicked it all off, or I should say we as in Mike Schiller from AHRMM and Vicky Lyle from Owens and Minor and I just a couple of days ago with our first video as we celebrate Healthcare Supply Chain Week. And now we are bringing on Eric Tritch from University of Chicago Medicine, and we're going to be talking about the theme of the power of partnerships, but in the community. So Mike, Vicky, we talked about the meaning of the power of partnerships and how it can mean a lot of different things. And some of those partnerships can be unconventional or not as well known or thought of on a regular basis. But I think we know we're all here in healthcare to serve our communities, and then we're going to be highlighting that with Eric. So Eric, I'm going to welcome you. If maybe you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization before we get started.
Yeah, thanks, Justin and Vicky and Mike for spending some time here. I'm Eric Tritch, Vice President of Supply Chain and Support Services at UChicago Medicine, and we're a fairly large size academic health system based out of Hyde Park, a neighborhood in the south side of Chicago. And we have facilities largely based in the south side of Chicago main campus, but then a number of facilities in the suburbs, an acute facility in Harvey, Illinois, and then we're growing into Northwest Indiana as well. And certainly the topic of community partnerships is front and center for us, I think, with a big investment a number of years ago to reopen a level 1 adult trauma center in the south side of Chicago, where it was desperately needed by our community, and it quickly became one of the busiest adult level 1 trauma centers in the Chicago area.
Excellent. Well, Mike, you might know a thing or two about
Eric
the area, right?
Chicago supply chain.
So go right ahead, Mike. Yeah. Why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Eric, great to have you with us as a fellow Chicago supply chain leader. It's great to have you on and highlight the great work that you and your organization have done in engaging with the community. Vicky and I talked about traditional relationships, the power of those partnerships in those traditional sectors, as well as some of the more non-traditional sectors that may be becoming more traditional as time goes on. And so I know that University of Chicago has done a lot of work in the construction side and business development side. But I know that you're also looking to expand the purchase service contract that the purchase services contracts that you have, and looking into the community and seeing which local and community businesses can support or can engage in those purchase service contracts that you guys have. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike. And certainly, we focus in our investments in the community. I think we have a strong track record going back to, even when Michelle Obama worked at UChicago Medicine and really helped kind of stand up some of our commitment to investing in the community. And, we've had a really strong track record in sort of the construction space of making sure that we're driving spend with firms in the community, local diverse firms, high percentage targets on any of our new construction projects, including a new cancer pavilion project that we're just kicking off in the early stages of. So, but where we've really focused in under the leadership of my executive director of business diversity and compliance, Joan Archie, is expanding more of that best practice history into additional spaces in purchase services. And, we've had efforts over the years. We've always had spend targets to, grow our spend with local minority owned businesses and partner with local groups in that space, but really focusing on what we can do in those ongoing sort of operating expenses to invest in the communities that we serve. We obviously equate in being a big organization focused on trauma and, what that means. It's not just about the acute care within our facilities, but it's about that ongoing support of the community, and the financial well-being of our communities is a key social determinant of health. And so we know we have to find ways to continue to invest in the communities, create jobs, support local businesses, and And we've, recently driven some exciting things in some of our third-party contracts with our food services management group, our environmental services management groups, to create specific local spend goals for them in those contracts, and in specific local hiring goals as well to, hire management within the communities that we serve. And these are things that we look to continue to grow and expand on to really make sure we're having what we consider an impact purchasing program, really be thoughtful about the dollars that we spend and the impact that has on our community. And that includes expanding more and more to think about the sustainability side of that spend as well. So, how does our spend and the waste that we generate impact our community as well? One of the great examples of both, a local and diverse owned business partnership for us came through a partnership with a local group called Chicago Anchors for a Strong Economy. And this was a group founded out of Rural Business Chicago in partnership with the mayor's office to really look at, how anchor institutions like UChicago Medicine, like many of our peers in the city, can really partner with local firms in a very targeted way. And, beyond just establishing goals and establishing processes that, create some access and opportunities for these firms, but really spending some time getting to know them, talking to them about, how they might meet some of our business needs. And we got a chance to work with a firm called Supply Logistics and Procurement, led by a gentleman by the name of Stephen Phillips. And, that initially started with a very small scale opportunity to do some help for us with some hard to find sort of distributed items, provide some backup resources for MRO type support items, et cetera. And they provided great customer service, helped us out in a few small areas. And then we had an opportunity to expand and actually tap into them to provide some additional labor support. So again, these were local folks within the communities that we serve, and in many cases, diverse hires that were able to plug in and fill some holes within some of our operations. And it just developed into a really strong partnership. They really understood the way that we operated. We spent time with them to really train up their teams in the way that UChicago Medicine approaches supply chain and our processes. And over the years, that relationship continued to evolve. They did a great job. They provided cost competitive services, great customer service, and we would look to them frequently when we had a need that wasn't easily addressed already within our supplier community. And so, really SOP started to shine through COVID. We leveraged them for both some temporary resources, temporary warehousing. They've since become part of our sort of extension of our operations into some of our ambulatory sites, and continue to be really a go-to partner of ours in the communities that we serve. And it's been a really a mutually beneficial relationship for us, and something we continue to grow on and certainly promote them to others in our local networks here in the Chicago area.
Eric, recently you had a community event, even where you were you hosted an event there for community contracting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Vicky. So we're excited. We've always had a presence in the Northwest Indiana area, but we're growing more significantly. We have a facility that's scheduled to open in the Crown Point region in the April-May timeframe of next year. And as we're going into what is really a new community for us in a more meaningful way, we wanted to be very intentional about how we entered the community, and not just bring all of our normal providers into that new space, but think both about, again, how do we enter the community and partner with the businesses there and invest in the economy? How do we want to hire in those communities? We already have a number of staff that actually live in the Northwest Indiana community that work in our facilities today. But then, going in to understand what local businesses there are, chamber of commerce within the local communities, meet with them, understand where they have suppliers that might be able to help us. And so we set up an event in a local community center just within the last week or so, and really sat down to, talk to them about the facility that we're opening. We invited targeted firms in services that we plan to contract for in that facility. And we were very intentional to say, hey, we've not made decisions for these services for this site. We want to meet you, understand your business, and include you in decisions around those opportunities. And really, create some meaningful awareness and access for firms that probably otherwise would have a hard time figuring out, how to get in front of our teams and have those discussions. And, really met some great potential suppliers there, and, they can help us understand some of the local nuance and provide, I'm hopeful, some great support and services in a new community for us. And that's a model we want to continue to grow and evolve in any communities that we enter.
Well, Eric, it's just a great highlight of how you're working in the community. What I love about it is that you're educating. You're not just looking to source, you're helping them navigate that process, which may be very difficult for somebody who maybe provides services that aren't just into healthcare. So they may not be familiar with the RFP, or even what's important to healthcare organizations that might be different from other industries. And so I really want to commend you on that. I'd say this discussion is coming up more and more often. It's just weaving its way into a lot of the conversations that I'm having, even if they're not really talking about work in the community. It seems to come up relative to all sorts of other topics of discussion. So, I want to congratulate you and your organization on what you're doing, and really leveraging, the power that you have as an organization to serve that community. So yes, absolutely, Vicky. Lots of cheers for you and your team, Eric. And I want to thank you for coming on as we celebrate Healthcare Supply Chain Week and sharing that success story, because honestly, you're very aligned with the mission when you're talking about those kinds of efforts in supply chain. And so again, thank you very much for coming on. Anything you want to add before we kind of wrap up?
No, just a happy Healthcare Supply Chain Week to all my supply chain colleagues out there. And thanks, Justin, Mike, and Vicky. This is great. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right. That was Eric, everybody. Mike and Vicky and we've got one more interview that's going to be released this week. So make sure you are on the lookout as we celebrate those that are leading the way out there in the field. You are all included if you're watching this as we celebrate Healthcare Supply Chain Week. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for the next interview coming up later this week.